how these randoms keep getting jobs. Don't worry about it. I'ma show you. I can't wait to show you. I love it. I love it. Go.
What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome back. We are back, and I'm happy to be back here on the NotBland Show. I'm your host, Dujane Bland, and man, I missed you guys. Missed you guys, and we are doing fine here. Didn't have any power outages. Other people did. We didn't get the rain that we thought we were going to get from Debbie, and I'm totally okay with that. All right? It would have been ugly here to get that there. Of course, you know, we're powered by sportsjourney.com and Everything Nitro, and we are sponsored by Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. And we'll be talking some NHRA on the back end. On the front end, though, I'll be having on my colleague, my friend, my pal, Conor Forrest, to talk some Commanders, talk about that Jets game and what we saw there. And before we get into that, we're going to get a word from our sponsor.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
And of course, like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and be sure to mark your calendars tomorrow. The Talking Funny Cars with Buddy Hall show returns to all of your NHRA fast channels. You can see it there on the flyer. You can have that thing on Sling, Samsung Plus TV, Tubi, the like. Search NHRA and then select the live option. It is tomorrow at 8 p.m. He is going to have on one of my favorites, Cruz Pedregon. So make sure you check that out. We're going to be talking about that throughout the show. But without further ado, he is part of our team here at sportsjourney.com, covering the Commanders and the NFL. My guy, Conor Forrest. What's going on, baby?
What's up, DJ? How are you, brother? What a setup this is. The debut for the show, and I mean the whole situation you got going on. It's so well done. And again, you might look at my screen and see, you know, we're in a studio, got the lights on. I'm still a dad. We still have random things going on here, so we're trying to keep it as professional as we can here. I'm just thrilled to be on with you, man. Thrilled to be on with you.
It is a way to kick off this season, and you know, Commanders fans have been clamoring for some action, some real on-the-field action, and we got that this Saturday. Just from your overall view of the game, what did you think about how the team looked in this first debut against a team that really is kind of stacked, if you will, from top to bottom with talent?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I think when you're looking at a preseason game, I think you have to look at the context of what the preseason has looked like in recent years, right? And how are we able to draw, you know, big, takeaways from a preseason game where a Jets team is sitting all their starters, realistically. I mean, they didn't play much of any starters. And, you know, Washington's future franchise quarterback plays a drive, right? So those are our big key takeaways. Everything kind of came down to number 5, right? So the first one, my first key takeaway of this game was Jaden Daniels in one drive looked silky smooth. I mean, he looked like a guy who knew how to work on offense. You looked for communication. It looked like everybody was in the right spot. Obviously, that big highlight throw to De'Ami Brown down the right side of the field there is the clip that's going to go viral. But scoring a rushing touchdown, calling an audible on the line. I don't know if you talked to any coaches, if you got some truth serum in them. I'm not sure how 100% thrilled they are about going in there and calling an audible, but he called his shot. And there's one thing that Jaden Daniels oozes is confidence, and that along with talent is really going to separate himself in the months ahead. For Washington, a couple takeaways team wide, right? So Jaden Daniels really was somebody that obviously stepped out. That offense, that first team offense and first team defense looks pretty solid. Again, they're going up against backups, but the Jets did this. This is a good Jets team. I think this is a Jets team that they stay healthy. This is an absolute Super Bowl contending roster. Yeah. So the question is, how did our second team look? They looked like they held up. And then as you went through the game, you could start looking at it and start peeling back the layers. Okay, so how does that backup line look? How does the backup defense line look? We saw in the second end of the first half, into the third quarter, fourth quarter, you saw some defensive struggles. You saw guys out there that you were surprised to see out there, right? You saw Fedarian Mathis and Jamin Davis out there playing for extended time in this game, which makes you kind of raise an eyebrow. Those, that's a first and second round pick over the last 2 years. And then obviously you saw Emmanuel Forbes, unfortunately, kind of bring his slow start in camp to the field with not the greatest showing for him, but overall, a lot of good to take away from it. Obviously, it's hard to take a ton away from things because coaches are they're not going to show you game looks. They're not going to show you a bunch of packages that you're going to see in September. But what are, I like to usually say, if you're going to, evaluate a football team, you do so on the analytical side. And then personally, I love the eye test, right? You can look at the numbers, you can look at the stats, but to me, things have to pass the eye test. And I think through week one, the most important guy in that field was wearing number 5. And I think he passed the eye test there, DJ.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely looked very confident. Him being able to make a call like that as early as he is in this process of him becoming a NFL quarterback says a lot about his off the field preparation. Him there coming in, being the first one in, last one to leave. That you have to be that in order to be able to make that type of an audible and check at the line, and to be able to do that. You have
absolutely
to be a person. So it is a great sign for Commanders fans in that regard. I'll say I do like the way both lines played. And I know there were some of our media colleagues had talked about the lack of pressure without Payne and Allen in there. But I'll say this: you're lining up hat on hat, pretty vanilla. There's no, there's no kind of, mixing up the schemes and trying to create anything. So for that being said, I thought they did pretty decent on both sides of the ball. My question though is I didn't care for the tackling. I thought could be more sure tackling on the defensive side. And I do have a concern for the cornerback room considered. I'm really tired of seeing Emmanuel Forbes be in position and not break plays. And I looked at that play from I believe that was Martinez to Brownlee, and
right on the goal line. Yeah.
He's not looking where he needs to be. His eyes were on the receiver, and you get lost in the sauce, and then you're a step behind, and you leave open that corner throw, which was very nicely put. But he really would have been in place to take that away or bat it down. And we've seen this repeatedly when he is there. And I've had people, like the guys from the urban sports scene over there, Wole and the crew, talk about how he's there to at least to be able to make the tackles. But you're a first-round draft pick, man. Like, there can't be no more, at least he's in the area to make the tackles, but he's getting beat. Like, you have to be able to take the ball away. And the simple stuff, you have to be on point with. That was not a difficult move there for him to be able to one-on-one and be able to be there and not allow that catch to happen.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, for Washington, Emmanuel Forbes is going to have to prove at some degree. And I know people have said, we got to move on from, but the reality is coming, into this season, you've got basically Mike Sandersill, who's a second-round rookie, who ideally is going to play a lot more on the inside. You've got Benjamin St. Juste, who's a guy who's a homegrown talent that Washington developed in those mid-round drafts. But really, after you go through that cornerback room, where you've got Michael Davis, who's a free agent guy, you obviously have Noah Igby and Kai Blue Kelly and AJ Woods, and all of a sudden you go into this. Wait, these are camp bodies, right? So when you're talking about this cornerback room, it's going to be imperative that Emmanuel Forbes is able to some degree, become a guy that they can trust. I mean, if it's one-on-one on the outside, if it's not, he just has to. It's imperative. This was an offseason that they really didn't do enough, in my eyes at least, or they did much to address the cornerback room and to address that offensive line. So you're going to need guys to step up in that category. You certainly cannot afford for guys to step down. And at least for the Emmanuel Forbes side of things, so far, it's not trending in the right direction for Washington. In terms of your tackling, I think your tackling concern is something that I think is a league-wide problem that will bleed into the first few weeks of the year. And I do think this simply just comes down to the fact that with the new CBAs and with the NFLPA and the new training camps over the last few years have limited contact. And it's difficult to practice tackling when you're not allowed to practice tackling. And I think so much of this is just going to come down to guys getting reps. And if they're able to start getting physical in these preseason games, and then that's why preseason games, to me, I know people have said, a lot of people have said, let's just get rid of them and call it a day and add an extra game. And it's like, no, these are vital game speed reps for guys to be able to put their shoulder down and tackle. So tackling the dummy is one thing. Tackling a running back coming right at you is a totally different thing. So I do think the tackling problem, if we're hosting this show in October and we're still having tackling problems, that's a huge issue. I think right now this is a league-wide thing that we're seeing with contact really being diminished, especially in recent years.
That's a good point. I've looked back at last year and the early games of last year, and they were very sloppy. And I really do think that the lack of preseason games does hurt that ability to come out and hit the ground running, so to speak. And you see a lot of teams come out in the first two games and look extremely sloppy. And it looks like a preseason game, for a half or maybe even an entire game, depending upon what teams there are. I agree with you on that. And that problem's only going to get worse, especially if they decide that they're going to delete all preseason games. So
no doubt.
It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do on that front. I'll tell you what, man, there's some guys that really impress me out there. I'll start on the defensive side of the ball with KJ Henry. My only problem is that Henry can't get too greedy. He was in a lot of plays, a lot of areas in the backfield, but he was part of the problem that allowed that play to happen towards the end of the game that gave the Jets the eventual lead. I don't care because I don't really want them to win not one preseason game anyway. But stuff like that, when you're looking at it for in season, let's not get too greedy. Keep your position. Otherwise, though, outside of that play, KJ Henry balled, and I think it's going to be a great problem to have for us, but it's going to be a huge problem for opposing teams' defenses. And I think there's a lot of guys on that front line that, given what we've seen from the Dallas days, from the Legion of Boom, or how they rotate guys in and out, they're pretty stout there in that position up front, and especially in the linebacking position.
No doubt. And this is again a linebacking position that's completely reworked. It's completely retooled, and everybody knew that last year that was going to be a weak spot. But I think obviously bringing in Frankie Luvu, bringing in Bobby Wagner, going out and getting those guys on that second level, because getting pressure at the quarterback is a 2-level game. You can have really good interior defensive tackles who their job is to create lanes for fast, athletic blitzing linebackers. We haven't really had those two complement each other here, right? We've had strong linebacking cores in the past, and we've obviously had the Alabama wall now for a number of years combined, but we've never really been able to put those two levels in a front seven together to really complement each other, right? And we tried. Let's be clear. We tried with Montez Sweat, who had some definite success, and then Chase Young, who obviously didn't pan out in any way. But on that inside, right, the guys wearing the green dots, the Frankie Louvu's, the Bobby Wagner's. Bobby Wagner's a tackling machine, and Frankie Louvu's an athletic freak. So those guys combined on the inside, I mean, if you can pair those up with a solid defensive line, and by the way, they got some depth with Clell Farrell. They went out and got some depth out there on those, outside linebacker, 3 technique defensive end guys. You went out and got Dante Fowler. So you went and found some speed. So, this is the kind of thing, and it's why Jamin Davis's struggles is eating me alive. Yeah. Because you feel like at a point, this is kind of the system, this is the personnel that would help exploit his talent, elevate his speed, elevate his athleticism more. I mean, so far, we're not really seeing it. But, we've got some time to go, obviously, the last few weeks of camp. We've got 2 games to go, and you'd imagine you're going to see him on the field. But I think this linebacking room got a massive software upgrade this offseason. And I think it should give a lot of people, it very much needed, but it should give a lot of people a feeling of, here we go. I mean, this is what we wanted. So, we've obviously, I think that secondary is going to need guys to step up. But I think the personnel on that linebacker crew stood out to you because it is rightfully upgraded. And I think fans should feel good about it.
Yeah, definitely. A whole lot of talk about Ben Sinnott and the fact that he was dropping balls in camp. And guy came out here in this Jets game and showed why he was drafted. Made some plays, and I don't like the Chris Cooley comp. I really do. No, look, I feel like Chris Cooley had his place, but fans have him way up here, and in reality, he was an average tight end to me.
You think so? Chris is my favorite. See, the problem is, Chris Cooley's my favorite Redskin of all time. So the issue is, I'm gonna die on the hill for my man. But I agree. Continue. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just had to tell Chris.
I just feel like he made plays. Yes. Not an elite talent. A guy who worked hard. A lunch pail guy. I'll give him that. But the pedestal that fans put him on, I don't think the comp for Ben Sinnott being a Chris Cooley guy, unless you just want to say about his work ethic and being just an all-out grinder, and he's going to get you the tough yards. He ain't electrifying in the speed department, but he's going to get you the tough yards. I can see that, but I don't think that's the best comp for Sinnott. I do believe though this could be a tight end room that we've been looking for as an entire group here for this team. And I think this is going to help. The favorite formation that I love is the 2 tight end set.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now you're talking Joe Gibbs language is what you're talking. See, tight end is my favorite position on the football field. Chris Cooley is my favorite Redskin of all time. And the reason is because of the versatility, right? I mean, a tight end, a really solid tight end. And you really, I would argue that there is no position that has evolved more over the last 25 years than the tight end position. Because if 25 years ago, when I was younger watching football, these tight ends are essentially just skinny tackles, and they go out there and they make a couple plays for you, but you're your extra offensive lineman. You get your 2 tight end set, and you've got a massive wall of offensive linemen. It's just not that way anymore. And if you can get a 2-tone tight end who can block on the line of scrimmage and can get out there in space, you've got a weapon that's completely indefensible. Like, they're too big for linebackers, or they're too fast for linebackers, they're too big for safeties or corners. They're indefensible if you find one that's a really good route runner and can block. In Washington, I think, have about as full a tight end room as you could ask, right? Do they have the Kittle? No. Do they have the Travis Kelce? Obviously not. But Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott, I think, are kind of a 1-2 punch similarity. Guys who can run well, guys who obviously respect the blockers. But I think John Bates and Cole Turner stood out to me in that Jets game as somebody who stood up there and was very physical and established himself. Something that Rivera was challenging him to do was to establish himself as a blocking tight end, as somebody they could trust putting out there in a heavy formation and go hold the block for a couple seconds. So, with the John Bates, Cole Turner, you've got 2 guys you can put out there in a 2 tight end set and not look away. Obviously, Zach Ertz, at one point, I think obviously his age is undefeated. It's diminished his ability to do it. But at one point, that's about as good a receiving blocking tight end as football had seen. And Ben Sinnott is just right behind him, I think. So I think Washington's going to keep – I think they're going to keep 4 tight ends. I genuinely think we're going to see them keep – I think they're going to keep all 4 of those guys because it opens up your playbook so much. I think you're going to see Ertz out in the West formation all alone by himself. I think you'll see Ben Sinnott out there as well, lining up in the slot. Cole Turner, I think they're going to want to push the ball to him. And obviously Bates is just a guy that obviously I think disappointed some as a receiver last year, but he showed enough as a blocker to say, we're good. We're good. So you got to love the direction they're going in. I mean, I could host a whole show on tight ends if you wanted to, but but I think Washington's good. I think they're in good hands.
Now, Martavis Bryant was brought in. This wide receiver room is getting very, very crowded. But Dyami Brown showed why, and this is what I've been waiting for him. I know it's there, and I know he has the ability. And he got put on display this weekend. He made a case to be able to make this roster. Do you think he can make this roster? Because I don't see Martavis Bryant being a factor, honestly. He could just unless he comes out here and really wows, I just don't see it. It's been a while, I think, since 2018, since he's been on the field. And we've already got a room that's pretty crowded. Of course, you'd like to have the size, the height, and whatnot, but I don't see him cracking the code, especially if we can see this another performance like this from Dyami Brown.
Yeah, so I mean, history tells us that, right? I mean, when was the last time you saw a guy signed in August make a 53-man roster? I mean, you just look back. I mean, that's a very low hit rate. And there's a reason, right? All 32 teams, other than you at this point said, let's go. Now, obviously, Quinn saw him in Dallas as a practice squad guy. So Quinn has some experience. He clearly saw something he liked that he felt could be an addition. He described Martavis Bryant today as a wide receiver who looks like he's a linebacker. He's 6'4", big dude. He says he's 208. At what point he was, 230. He said he's dropped some weight, but he's a big boy. He's a big receiver. Now, I think this happens every year. We go ahead and sign. Remember we signed Thomas Davis, a linebacker, the first year that Ron Rivera was here, and everyone thought, hey, Thomas Davis in 2014 just walked in the door. And it's just never how that works, right? There's a reason somebody out of football since 2018 is there. There's going to be some rust to shake off no matter who you are. I think he's an interesting move, though. And I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him. I think he'll get some extended play time here in the next 2 weeks, and I think he should. Because I think if he does show something, you go through that receiver room with Dotson and Crowder, with Luke McCaffrey, Olamide Zaccheaus, and then obviously you've got Terry McLaurin there, and none of those guys are particularly big. Like we don't really have much size on that receiver room, and so it leads you to wonder. Dyami Brown is a guy who, coming out of college, my only concern with Dyami Brown, I loved the pick. I think he really is destined to have success at this level of football. My only concern with Dyami Brown coming out of college was his route tree beneath 8 yards. Right? Up to 8 yards, he never really was able to get separation there at UNC in any of those short yards. But if you were able to get him flying down the sideline, outside of the hashes, or even just a seam route, and you had a receiver or you had a quarterback that could get him the ball, he's a deep threat all day long. And I think that is how he punches his ticket onto the 53-man roster. And it's a reason he was out there with the ones. The one thing I'll say about Martavis is that he's a guy that brings a unique combo of size that I think it is very telling that on August 13th, he's strapping on pads for the first time, getting to know his teammates, because I think the coaching staff see a way to use him. And I think that enough, depending on the coaching staff, I mean, we've seen this before, that can sometimes be enough. If a coaching staff can say, I don't need this guy to go out there and get me 600-700 yards. I need this guy to go get me 400 yards. But those 400 yards or 300 yards is going to be, in a certain way that's going to help open up my offense. So if there's any argument to Martavis Bryant, it's not going to be because he's going to go right back to, 14 touchdowns in 2 years. It would be he is going to bring a level of physicality and a frame with him that we just simply don't have. And if he's able to get himself to 60, 70% of what we saw before, I think that might be enough, honestly, DJ. I think it might be enough. So obviously this is totally yet to see. Your gut tells you no. Why? Because history tells us no. And if we're just looking at a numbers game, history tells us that. So it's not wrong to feel that way. I do think that him coming at this time, this late, says something about coaching staff. Obviously, they brought him in for a workout. If they felt like he wasn't physically capable, I think that would have stood out. I doubt they would have put pen to paper on anything. But this is just a super low downside, high upside signing that I'm all in on.
Yeah, it will be very telling if he makes. And again, like I said, his size is something that I looked at because there's not a lot of. We don't have a lot of tall, lanky guys at wide receiver. Got some nice guys that are speedsters that run routes very crisp and can get separation. But you still kind of at times need that guy that you can throw up that alley-oop and he can go up and get it for you. Caleb Cox, one of my favorite guys out there in the business. He says, thoughts on Trayvon Austin's retirement, great highlight type of all time. What do you think? I was kind of shocked, actually. I've been shocked about a lot of guys who are young and have retired here as of late, but I do get it.
Yeah, I know it is interesting. I mean, I happened to be 2 weeks ago. I just came across that classic highlight reel of him at West Virginia. I mean, he gives you the Dante Hall flashback of the human joystick. Like, look at how this dude moves. I mean, and I will say for Tavon Austin to have been in the league, I mean, you also don't see, and it's what made Deshaun Jackson so special, is guys of that size and of that frame, maintaining that speed, maintaining that edge, being able to stay in the league as long as he did, have production for the numbers of years that he did. Tavon Austin was the kind of guy you wanted in Madden, right? He's just the dude you wanted in Madden. You wanted to play the Rams because Tavon Austin was running down the field and you could hit X and you could sit back and take a sip of your Coke Zero and score a touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, Tavon Austin, happy retirement, my man. I mean, what a fun talent he is. I mean, he makes the sport better. And I think those kind of receivers are just they just expand the field in a way that nothing else does.
Yeah, I agree. And I really, I miss Deshaun Jackson too. Guys just, I mean, you couldn't outthrow him. Like, there's no way you're outthrowing that guy. Like, he better trip over his own feet. Like, there's no way you're outthrowing him. And I remember the big plays that he had for Washington, but the one that stands out is the game with Michael Vick in that first play. That first play from scrimmage was lights out.
LaRon Landry's lying on his stomach watching this dude go backwards into the end zone. I mean, it's one of those – it is tough because he is one of those guys. I mean, Deshaun was just simply one of those guys where it's a little bit like Tyreek Hill, where if it's one-on-one, really the question is it's not is he going to be open. It's is his offensive line going to hold the quarterback – hold that pocket long enough for Deshaun to get downfield. And, I mean, you saw guys with Kirk Cousins. People can say a lot about Kirk Cousins. You can't say that guy's got a noodle arm. He had a rocket arm. And on multiple occasions, Kirk Cousins puts all his body into it, and Deshaun Jackson's walking backwards towards the line of scrimmage to go get a ball. Those guys just make the sport better, man.
They definitely do. I'm going to really, really miss that. There's not too many of those guys that are available.
No.
So Washington goes to Miami. Game 2, what are you going to be looking for in game 2 of the preseason when it comes down to this squad?
So obviously we're going to look for a couple things. So I do think this is where we're going to see Marcus Mariota and Jaden Daniels take over that first half. However much they play, hard to know. I'd imagine it's going to be at least 3 drives, maybe 2 to 3 drives for Jaden Daniels. For him to get out there, face a pretty decent defense, guys that aren't going to be sitting. Obviously, the Dolphins are obviously a playoff team. They're going to be having their guys out there. So this is going to be a test for him. It'll be a test for him, and I think one he is not going to shy away from whatsoever. So on the quarterback room, the one thing that draws our eyes into this the most, I think we're going to see that combination of Mariota and Daniels in that first half. And then happy to see Jeff Driscoll take the third and fourth quarters, no problem at all. Obviously, Sam Hartman, we don't know exactly the degree of his injury, but I imagine we won't see him the rest of this preseason, just depending. I mean, it is a shoulder thing, so we're obviously going to stand by and wait for more. I think towards the end of this week, you're going to hear a little bit more on his status.
Right.
And then in terms of just around the field, you're going to see this offensive line. Cornelius Lucas has now rejoined the team, so he'll be there. Obviously, Brandon Coleman, his injury status, that looks like a week-to-week thing that we're going to have to monitor. I'd imagine if he's okay by that Patriots game, he might get some play time, because I think for him it's important to get some reps, but obviously he's going to end up being week-to-week. But this offensive line, you're going to get as close to your starting offensive line minus Brandon Coleman as you're going to get. So you do want to watch that offensive line for the first few drives, see how they hold up. We talked about our two guys, Jamin Davis and obviously Emmanuel Forbes. How do those guys respond? How much playing time do they get? Does Jahan Dotson get involved in this game, right? Where does he – obviously he played a significant number of offensive snaps. So you start looking at some of those key guys and wondering, what are your roles? Where are you going? Where are you going to start? How is this going to fit? So lots of questions to look at. But I'll give you my three, and I'll rank them. How does Jaden respond from his first monster drive against the Jets? How does he pick up and go from there? And really, what does his communication look like on that offensive line with a couple mismatched tackles? And kind of how does his distribution go? I will, just like I said, I'll be looking at some of those key guys on defense, as we obviously said, Forbes and Davis. But I'll be looking at their linebacker core. I'll be looking at how long the defensive line plays, how long Fedarian Mathis plays, and what his production looks like. And then really my third, this is not a fun one, and no one really would picture us talking about this on August 13th, but the kickers. The kicker situation is a sleeper, huge problem for this team right now. And obviously this is something that we haven't talked much about, because who likes talking about kickers? But currently it's Riley Patterson. They're going to go with Riley Patterson and see how this goes. He has not looked good in practice. He obviously didn't look great in the game. So they're going to need to shore this up, because if there's any other carousel you don't want to be sitting on, the quarterback carousel sits at number one. The kicker carousel is right on its tail at number two, and that is not a carousel anyone wants to be sitting on. So want to watch that kicker battle, see how this thing pans out, see how they want to play. Going to be very, very interesting.
It is. I'm just saying, man, pulled the trigger on Joey Slye way too quick. It's been like that in Washington too much here. I felt like they pulled the trigger on Slye way too quickly, and here you are in this mess here. I get them getting McManus out of here. I mean, the organization doesn't want any more stains. So it may have been a little quick, but you got to consider the circumstances and what this team has been through. They don't want none of that smoke. So they're trying.
And you have to think that at some point, obviously, they had enough knowledge in the building, and this is just something that's pretty typical. They had enough knowledge in the building to figure out, okay, this is definitely not a situation we want to extend any further. I mean, to go to your point about the Slye problem, I couldn't have been more frustrated when Ron Rivera decided, let's make Dustin Hopkins the sacrificial lamb in the middle of the season when he did. This is a couple of years back, and the people just acted like, oh, yeah, Dustin Hopkins is the problem. It's like, well, ask the Chargers. I don't think he's a problem at all. So, this is just it's just not smart. And I obviously think McManus put the team in a really tough spot. And they really didn't have a choice. But this is an error that is obviously outside of their control. But we're going to see that is going to be a battle to watch. They're going with Riley Patterson. If he has another bad game, if reports come out of practice that things are still taking a southern turn, you'd have to imagine they're right back into the bucket of trying to sign somebody off the street. And it's just not a conversation you want to be having. But it's definitely something we got to keep our eye on for sure.
Indeed. Well, Conor, let everybody know where they can follow you and see your work at.
Absolutely. Well, we are at sportsjourney.com. I'm the new NFL reporter there with Lake Lewis and DJ. You'll find Serge Lewis there as well. And Bob Actie's the whole team. I mean, Sports Journey is one thing I would ask all you to bookmark. And just throughout the week, I always went, as a fan, before I really got into this for my work, I always loved to have a place that I could get to, just no BS, no just overindulgent articles, just places I can go, click on, get my daily feed. Hey, what's going on? Where can we, how do I know my team's doing? What's the news? What's the notes? Get me a preview, a post game, get me my podcast. Sports Journey's got the whole thing. So I'm so proud to be a part of the family, man. I'm so excited for the season. Things are only getting started. So make sure sportsjourney.com. You'll find all of our stuff. You can find me at Conor Forrest _ on Twitter. Give me a follow. And we will be with you throughout the entirety of the season, my friend. And I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for our team. And, man, football is back.
Football's back, baby. It's in the air. I can smell the bonfire smoke in the air. It's here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's here, man.
It is.
It is.
Well, man, until next time, thank you so much for taking the time. And first time, but not the last time.
Amen, brother. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, DJ.
It's Conor Forrest, everybody. And David Burns watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. Thanks for tuning in. And, man, give us a like. Give us a subscription there on our YouTube page. It would be great. And after this break, we are going to get into some NHRA championship drag racing as we are in Brainerd, Minnesota.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
And ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you go and support our sponsor. I will now put up the ticker. I've been forgetting that lately with all these commercials and all these read-offs. Again, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, Wednesday, August 14th at 8 p.m. as Buddy Hall, the host of Talking Funny Cars, will be having on one of the best, Cruz Pedregon. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Well, we are in Brainerd, Minnesota, and I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot going on this weekend, a lot of good stories. Our guy, Memphis Lonnie, talks about Ida Zetterstrom making her debut in Dragster. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to go back, though, in the comments where our guy, Lonnie, talks about Paul Lee and this team, a very vital race for them. If you're looking at the points, the NHRA points here in Funny Car, it is a 4-team race right now. And you can throw in Alexis DeJoria in that. Why? Well, Blake Alexander is 531 in 10th. Alexis DeJoria is 526th in 11th. Okay? Now, we know if you participate in all the races, you get a free spot. Well, Paul Lee is not one of those teams. And if he falls out of this top 10, it's a Ratski. It's no playoffs for you, sir. He is sitting currently in 8th. But let's talk about the numbers. So Daniel Wilkerson is at 585. He's in 7th. Paul Lee, 545 in 8th. Chad Green, 534. 10th, as we talked about, Blake Alexander, 531. Alexis DeJoria, 526. Cruz Pedregon, 459. And you think he's in 12th, 459. Well, he's a little ways back. Not until you get to Indy. It's points and a half. If he qualifies well here and he outruns, goes further than Alexis DeJoria, he's quickly, and Blake Alexander, he's quickly finding his way, smelling top 10. And just like Paul Lee, if they don't execute well and they go out first round, we all know Blake Alexander, Chad Green, Daniel Wilkerson, Alexis DeJoria have had good cars. And you got a car in Cruz Pedregon that's coming on. It's going to be a problem. And you don't want to get behind the 8 ball coming into Indy. It's already enough pressure. Being the big race of the year, it's the last race of the regular season. It's points and a half. Everybody wants to win Indy. There's no room for any mistakes. With that said, it is 17 funny cars on the premises. So that means somebody is going home. And they don't want to be that somebody. Top Fuel, they got 15. Pro Stock, 19. As you know, there is no Pro Stock motorcycle until Indy. We have Top Alcohol Dragster, 16. Top Alcohol Funny Car, 2 classes. I like 12. I'm going to tell you, this one is going to be one that you want to tune into. These next 2 races of the regular season are going to be slugfest. This track in Brainerd, we know, has produced Big Speed, Big ET, owned by Robert Height. And I believe the Speed is owned by him. I don't think so. I think it is. Either way, this track produces Big Speed in the Hero Session. If everything's right and we don't have these guys missing again in the big moments, as I like to say, when the lights are bright and you show up small, we could have some big-time numbers again this weekend. So it's going to be fun. Going to be a lot of fun there. Also, no idea what's going on here. Am I frozen? Whatever reason, I cannot put your guys' comments up there. I don't know what the heck just happened. Either way, we'll get it. If you didn't know, Mount Motor Pro Stock is there. It's 12. There we go. Okay, just a little late. Mount Motor Pro Stock is 12. Nicole says Alexis got in a bunch of test runs last week at IRP. She's right around there, so she gets to see all that fun stuff. And you know what? She is a car that has been one or the other, right? Sometimes it's Alexis, and sometimes Alexis is good and the car just isn't there in the moments that she needs the car to be there. So if they got in some good laps, I expect them to be on point. They have been there and been very close to breaking through. Is this the weekend? And for a few guys and girls, they don't want that to be the weekend. It's going to make it harder for them to get in the top 10. I think she's right there. Drag Racing Mayhem says, also, I spent the entire month on my X account talking about all the amazing battles NHRA robbed us of. Yes, I agree. But we have some battles for the simple fact that we do have some individuals that did not make all of the races. So, and some of those people are actually in your top 10. So they can't afford to make any types of mistakes at all leading up to these last 2 races. They have to be flawless, and they have to make sure that they go just as many rounds or more than the people around them. Otherwise, for Paul Lee, there is no chance of moving up and being one of those guys to tout to your sponsors that, hey, we were in the championship hunt and we finished 5th or we finished 6th. I know Johnny Lindbergh was on Life is a Drag show, which check those guys out. Jason and Jason are really cool, and it is a show that gets to showcase who they really are. And I love it. Love the show. And Johnny Lindbergh had talked about the fact that they cannot make any mistakes this weekend. They're very confident, though, with what they've got. And, Memphis Lonnie has been on that bandwagon since day one and been talking about Paul Lee since day one. And they really are a team that you can't sleep on. And they know what is at stake. I expect them to be right there and making some noise this weekend. They're definitely not going to be the ones that are going to be on the bump spot, not making it. So that's going to be something to watch. Nicole says, are Cruz and Alexis in since they didn't miss races? Yes, they are in. They do benefit from the participation trophy deal, but they both have an opportunity to still break through and at least be in the top 10. It doesn't, earlier in the season, it didn't look good for Cruz, but when you start looking at how the points are laying out in that bottom half, he has every bit of shot to bump himself right into the top 10. Be able to say, hey, look, man, when we made it, when it came down to countdown time, we were in the top 10. We didn't need that participation trophy spot. So I feel like with what's been going on and what we've been seeing from that Snap-on Tools car, I think here in the next 2 races, these are favorable races for them. They're favorable races for a lot of people, but I think with the Brain Trust, you've got one of the most, senior veterans that's been through this 1,000 times. Nothing's going to really shake him. He just needs to be provided a car that is consistent. And they've been trying to do that here as of the last few races of this regular season. So going to be interesting to see how they pan out there. Drag Race Mayhem says, yep, thanks to our horrible points format. Yeah, I don't like it. I understand what they're trying to do there. I think we got to find some way to change that, make it a little bit more exciting. If you want to have a bonus car in the countdown that will compete, give it up to a fan vote. You know what I mean? I make it interesting. Get the fans involved. Definitely must-see TV, Nitro Performance guy. Definitely must-see TV. Nicole says, you never know what you get weather-wise up there. There have been Sunday races in the 50s. Could you imagine a Sunday race in the 50s? Talk about throwdown. Like, slugfest is an understatement. That would be like Mike Tyson versus Mike Tyson in his heyday. I'd still say Mike Tyson right now is dangerous. So, that would be something else there. Dave W. says, Doug Coletta's first top fuel driver to 600 starts, courtesy of DragRaceReference.com. I take care of you, Dave. I take care of you. That's awesome, actually. I wonder how much they're going to talk about that. That's something that definitely should be talked about. Memphis Lonnie says, if next season has Erica, Angel, and Ida all in competing in the top few along with Brittany, Jasmine, and Krista, we could see the first ever all-female semifinal in NHRA top fuel history. That would be fun, wouldn't it? That would be fun. Very interesting. And it could be a loaded top fuel. I'm telling you, man, if you want to go racing, Funny Car's your best bet. That's where you got a shot. This top fuel's becoming bloated, like the AEW and WWE rosters. Too many people. He said they took provisionals. Well, I think you were talking about the two outside of the top 10 there. Lonnie Drag Race Mayhem says, I'm just going to pretend we are in pre-2020 and the top 10 actually matters. Yeah, might as well. Of course, man. You always are doing excellent stuff for the sport of drag racing. It deserves to be talked about. So I have this thing of looking at the rookies so far, and you can thank my good friend Nicole for the idea. So I've been looking at statistics, and fans do not have a vote in the Rookie of the Year. I am fortunate to be one. To be one of those guys that gets an opportunity to vote on Rookie of the Year. I take it very seriously. To me, it's like having the Hall of Fame vote in the NFL, but better, because I think the Hall of Fame vote is a joke full of jokesters who are voting. So this is a lot better. So I'm very happy and proud to have an opportunity to vote in that. So you got Tony Stewart here. You've got Ida Zetterstrom, who has nothing right now. She's going to try to make an 8-race run at it and see where she comes out at the end. Richard Gatson, Daniel Wilkerson, Jasmine Salinas, Travis Shoemake, and Sienna Wildgust. Sorry, Sienna. My bad. Sienna Wildgust. So when you look at the statistics here, Sienna Wildgust, 0-5 round win-loss record, 3 DNQs, 5 first-round exits, and 8 races. Travis Shoemake has not made, I don't believe he's made a roster or made the show at all. If he did, he's out first round. He's DQ'd a bit. Jasmine, 3-11 round win-loss record, 3 quarterfinals, no wins, no runner-ups, and 8 first-round losses. Daniel Wilkerson, 9-12, 3 quarterfinals, 2 semifinals, 1 runner-up, and only 6 first-round losses. Makes a really good case for Rookie of the Year, given that he does have 2 semifinals and 1 runner-up there, and he has a very minimal first-round exit. Richard Gadsden, 12-8. He's the only one in this group of rookies that has a winning round win-loss record. He has 3 quarterfinals. He's been to 3 semifinals. He's been a runner-up once, and he's only been exited the first round 1 time. That counts for something. Tony Stewart, 11-12, just below 500. 2 quarterfinals, 3 semifinals, 1 runner-up, and he only has 6 first-round losses. If you had to ask me to pick right now, Rookie of the Year, based on numbers, it would go to Richard Gadsden for me. It's the 3 semifinals, the 1 runner-up. It's the 12-8 win-loss record. He's not under 500. Daniel Wilkerson, to me, is a close second and really could be tied for second, but I'd have to go with Tony Stewart as number 2 right now. They are both right around the same, but it's the better win-loss record for me. 9-12, I can't vouch for that, especially when you have others who have a better win-loss record. And I take a look at those things. It's not a matter of who I like. It's about the numbers and what they've executed here. And then sometimes you kind of take a look at the end of the year. How do they come on? How many rounds are they going? How many semifinals are they in? You start looking at that. But right now, if we're calling it today, I'd have to put Daniel Wilkerson 3rd. Then it's easy Jasmine Salinas, and it's everybody else. Doesn't really matter how it shakes out there. Drag Race Mayhem says Tony Stewart is going to win Rookie of the Year. I think we all know that Richard has had this better season, but Tony Stewart is Tony Stewart. If Tony Stewart wins and it's not number-based, I'm going to have a problem. And you know me, you guys know me, I'm going to tell you I have a problem. And I'm going to make it very clear that the voting there was not fair, because we have criteria, what the criteria is for choosing the Rookie of the Year. And I felt like 1 year before that the criteria wasn't met either. It was very close. Could have gone either way. But I thought there was a little bit of favoritism because others liked this individual. If it comes down to that, and we're talking about round win-loss record, Tony would have to improve the round win-loss record, and he at least needs to win a race, or at least be in more semifinals and finals than Richard Gadsden at this point. That's the bottom line. I mean, can't deny who he is, right? Because he is a big-time talent and driver that everyone knows and has done great things in NASCAR, and really he's shown out pretty well here in the NHRA. I think they need to give him a more consistent race car, and that's not on him. So if they do that, they will be there. But if his win-loss record doesn't match and the semifinals and runner-ups or wins don't match and he gets picked, I'm going to burn it down. I'm going all Stephen A. Smith. I'm going to Kirk out, because I'm all about following rules and what is laid out. That has to hold weight. It can't be about who you like. This isn't a popularity contest. This isn't like the Pro Bowl. This is talking about Rookie of the Year. This ain't a publicity stunt. It's who did what to come out and to be chosen to be Rookie of the Year. So just know, if it happens, And it's not fair. You already know that those who have a vote will get the smoke. Period. DW says Tony's going to win a race before the season is over, but so will Richard. I agree. It's going to be, I think it's a two-person race, and Ida's we're going to see if she changes this thing a little bit, shakes it up a bit. There's no doubt that with Ida's debut, there's no team more prepared. There's no driver more prepared. There's no crew more prepared than the one that Ida is debuting with here in Brainerd. All you have to do is follow her on social media. I think she's right up there with the Leah Pruitts of the world. Working hard, even throw Crystal Baldwin in there as well. Working hard off the track with the sponsors, securing sponsors, doing all the little dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Her driving skills, we'll need to question those, second to none. If I'm starting a team, you'd be stupid and not take her as a driver. So I really do think she has an opportunity to shake this thing up in a tough division. It's full, it's loaded, top to bottom. And we're coming into a season where people are starting to hit their stride and they're just trying to get started. So they have to come out the gates hot and heavy. So we're going to see how it all plans out. It's a great race to start at with conditions that could be prime for big numbers. Car's going to go A to B because she's a good driver. So it's just a matter of them giving her a car to be able to go out there and win with. Drag Race Mayhem says, I'm concerned about Ida. Tony Schumacher hasn't exactly ran great, and they tried to start a whole other team. We know Ida is great, but will her team give her a car to battle the Colettas and Ashleys? That is the big question, right? That is the big question. We do know that the level of consistency for Tony hasn't really been there. And Nicole says Tony has contributed a lot this season, which is a factor. Same with Ida. Yeah. And I agree. That's a good point, Drag Race Mayhem. It's something that you cannot ignore, right? It's the same thing with stick and ball sports. We go by, it's a what have you done for me lately league anywhere. And what we've seen from them hasn't been the best. And it hasn't been consistent. And we do have to recognize that there are teams in front of them, such as Colettas, Ashley. You have to throw in the Torrances as well that are coming on. You got to throw in Clay Milliken and what Jimmo's doing over there. There's a lot of dangerous teams ahead of them. And I think you're going to start to see Jasmine's car start to come around here coming into this playoffs as well. And let's not forget, Brittany's car is starting to find its way. And as long as Brittany can be who we know she can be on the tree, the rest is history. Don't let David Grubnick start finding a home run tune-up and start punching people in the mouth. It's going to get real ugly here in Top Fuel, and I'm really looking forward to what we're going to be seeing here. Dave W. says, if you can't make it all the way to Brainerd this weekend, stop at US 41 Dragway in Morocco, Indiana for the Area 41 Nostalgia Drags. Tons of great nostalgia, super stock, pro stock, and funny cars. Yeah, that sounds like a weekend for me if you can't make it all the way to Brainerd. That sounds like a blast. I assume you're going to be there. Lonnie says, I still find it hard to believe that Julie Natus is having sponsorship issues to get signed up by someone. I know it's a limited market, but sheesh. Yeah, I've said it over and over again. You've heard me say it on the Power Hour. Got to find a way to make Top Alcohol, Dragster, and Funny Car actually matter. I mean, the girl's a multi-time champion, and it feels like she won a trophy in intramurals. And it shouldn't be that way. I don't think there's going to be an issue here soon. My prediction is that I think there's going to be some Salinas. I think that team, Scrappers Racing, is going to find a way. I could see her being over there, 2-car team. So nothing is set in stone that Mike Salinas comes back to get in the car, so to speak. And I'm not speaking on anything. I'm just analyzing the situation. So take it for what it's worth. That's just my 2 cents. Wait a minute. Dave says, be there. He said, heck, I'm going to be making my once a year driving appearance. That's what's up. That's what's up. He is a good driver, by the way. I've seen the clips. Nicole says, I don't think lots of fans understand what's going into getting a sponsorship. Big investment for a company to sponsor a car, and budgets are tight right now. Yeah. I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, budgets are tight for us, right? And we're just trying to buy groceries and keep the lights on. So definitely understand that. Drag Race Mayhem says, unless you're an F1 team getting millions of dollars investment on a daily. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? And that, to me, that's more expensive than going drag racing. But hey, what do I know, right? I'm just a guy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the show. It's been a great one, and I'm glad to be back. Also glad that could have been worse. There were like 15 to 20 inches of rain, and we got 8. So, yeah, we're definitely happy. I missed you guys, but had to serve our citizens here in the greater Valdosta area. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's football season. Drag racing is going to be here this weekend. It's going to be a good one. So do what you got to do. Arrange your schedules accordingly. I don't think this is a race you want to miss here. A lot of action. There's a lot of things going on and off the track. Ida's debut is going to be, I'm excited. I hope it delivers. I hope they give her a car. I know she will deliver. I hope the whole thing delivers. I expect it to do so. Man. And the football season is coming. So we're going to have a couple of different of my colleagues on to talk about different divisions here. We're going to go into the AFC East here on one of our next shows and talk about that division and start moving around so we can start getting some looks for your sports teams. Let us know who you want us to talk about here on the NotBland Show. Man, for everything Nitro and sportsjourney.com, it's a blessing. And to all the new people who tuned in, what they call them, the lurkers, we appreciate you guys lurking in the background, giving us some type of ratings here. Again, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Tell a friend, man. It's been awesome, and it still continues to be awesome. I still can't believe I do this for you guys. So, again, thank you so much, and good night, everybody.